Spawnily is the premier podcast spotlighting people of color. Every week, we talk news, what we've been playing, and tell you who's invited to the cookout. Our show is all about talking about gaming through a prism of blackness, because we are the culture. Welcome to Chicago, y'all.
What up, everybody here in Chicago? What the deal be? I hope you're all doing well. This is the Spawnily Podcast with Kahlief Adams. I'm your host, Kahlief Adams. I hope you're doing extremely well this week. I hope you've had a wonderful week. I hope you had a really fantastic Halloween. I know I had a banger of a Halloween. It was super, super dope. I got a chance to go to a magnificent concert down in LA this past Halloween. It was over on Sunday. I had a chance to go rockin' and go see one of my favorite artists on the planet in Kaytranada. It was amazing. Like I'm a big Kaytranada fan. Me and my wife, we went and I dragged her butt down to LA with me with a broken foot. And she rocked out watching the show and had a fantastic time. It was so good to be able to rock with her and going to see so many dope folks together. In terms of having, a show to go to, which is a thing I haven't done in forever. Having a chance to go and rock with, people in the public in that way. It was a little sketchy. I'm not going to front. The conversation when you get in the door was like, you got to rock your vaccination card and you got to show, your ID and all the other stuff. And it was dope when you got into the security line. But as soon as you got into the actual venue, people were YOLOing all of the masks everywhere. It was wild. People were not wearing masks. That was a little bit difficult to deal with. We were luckily on another level where we weren't around a lot of folks who didn't have masks on. We had our masks on for the whole entire show. Again, please get vaccinated. Please make sure you're doing that work. But it was wild to see so many folks in a jam-packed concert not wearing masks after everything else was put on your mask and do all that stuff so that you can actually go and be a part of the experience. That was wild. I don't know how that works. I'm hoping that people are going to come out of that okay. But Kaytranada just killed that show, did a fantastic job on the show. It was brilliant. It was super dope. I'm very happy that we got a chance to see it. If you missed last week's episode, please make sure you're going to check that out. It would be fantastic if you did. Again, we're looking to boost our numbers for the show. We have a lot of great stuff coming up towards the end of the year. Some really great announcements that'll probably happen in the next couple of days. And there's some really big stuff happening in December. So there'll be some great conversations to be had around all those things. And hopefully you will all be here on the ride with me while all those things go down. It'll be pretty dope. I can't front. Something else that's awesome and really fantastic, this episode 412 of the Spawnily podcast, is we have a new sponsor. I am very excited to announce that we are rocking with our friends over at Manscaped. Manscaped have definitely come through. They have been looking out for us. They have been doing some really great work in the lower regions department for a long period of time, making sure, all your stuff is feeling good. All your stuff is trimmed up, making sure you're doing all that cool stuff. And yeah, I am very excited for what we're going to be able to do with Manscaped. They are sponsoring the episode this week, and I believe they're sponsoring the episode next week. We have we're looking to see if we can get a couple of sales from everybody in Chicago to pull in and see if we can get that to work. Again, you can use the code SpawnOnMe at manscaped.com. You can do that and support Chicago. Again, we've been rocking with them for a while. We did a really cool activation with them a couple of years ago, and now we've come back into the space and we're rocking again with Manscaped. We'll be talking a little bit more about that before the break. So we'll be giving you a little bit more info about what all that is. And I'll show off the new 4.0 lawn trimmer, which I think is actually pretty freaking sweet and pretty awesome. To be fair, it has been awesome to be able to get that in there. So we'll be doing one more ad right in the beginning of the second half of the show, right after the ad break, and then coming back with more information about Manscaped and how they're helping to support us here in Chicago. So thank you to our friends over at Manscaped. Again, you can use the code Spawn on Me to get 20% off and free worldwide shipping for the new Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, which is also a great name. Like, it is just a really good name for a product. I appreciate it. I think it's dope. I think it's fantastic. We have a lot of cool stuff to get into for this week's show. There's a couple of pieces of news that we want to dig into. A lot of fun stuff to really jump into from the conversational standpoint of that. So before we do that, you got to check out our new bumper for the 411. So, first story of the week is all about Midnight Suns. Midnight Suns is the Firaxis game, the folks who made XCOM and a whole bunch of other fantastic games. They shared some information this week about, sadly, their game getting delayed. It's going to get delayed until late 2022. They shared a message on Twitter that reads as follows. It said, "Hey, everybody, on behalf of Firaxis Games, we want to thank you for showing just how excited you are about Marvel's Midnight Suns. We've been thrilled to see reaction to everything that we've been putting out in the world. And it's been a dream project for us. We decided to share that we're going to have to push back the game's launch window to the second half of 2022. We know a lot of folks were looking forward to the game. We're really sorry that we had to push launch back, but we want to make sure that we're delivering on this unforgettable adventure set in the supernatural side of Marvel. I said Marvel. It says these extra months will be used to add more story, cinematics, overall polish, and essential in helping us make that vision a reality." So I'm super sad about this. Again, the folks over at Firaxis and Marvel Midnight Sun sent over this gorgeous, beautiful care package with some fantastic swag in it and cool stuff. But I am just like, man, I'm now like fully entrenched into so much more Marvel stuff. And just really excited for what that game is going to wind up being. I've always wanted an XCOM-esque game in the Marvel universe. Them digging into this game in this way is going to be super, super cool, because now we get a chance to see this very different version of this game. It's going to be really awesome to be able to see how they're going to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the two worlds of Marvel and of the Midnight Suns kind of line that they're doing and working in terms of the conversation there. How they're going to build that world around the kind of base of an XCOM game is also going to be pretty fantastic and awesome. So I am infinitely excited for what that is going to wind up being, and hoping that that's going to be something that we'll be able to check out, fairly soon, in terms of what that universe is going to look like and how that all is going to kind of work together. So sad that it's getting delayed, but again, I think anything at this point that gets delayed, there's a good reason for it. This year was going to be jam-packed and full of stuff anyway. So, folks getting out of that space to be able to let other things kind of rock and not have to worry about it. All of that is going to be good for, everyone involved at that point. I think that's going to be good for everyone's launches in that way. And again, like, Firaxis folks are well known. They've nailed this stuff pretty easily over the years in terms of getting the base game stuff down. This will be a really new, interesting twist on that, and I hope that they are able to accomplish that, because that's going to be really cool if it comes out and is really, really dope. So super excited about that for sure, but sad that they're going to get delayed a little bit. Next story up for this week is about Twitch getting hacked, or not getting hacked again, but the previous hack that happened, there was an investigation that happened. Of course, you have to kind of do the math and say, what's happening in that space. How are things kind of working? What was the retro that happened after the breach happened? And there was an actual like really interesting story that just broke today on Kotaku, that talks about how some hackers laundered about $10 million on Twitch. Again, that is a huge amount of money from the leak that when we talked about it a couple months ago, as it was months at this point. The overarching conversation was that, not a lot of stuff happened in that space in terms of data getting leaked or kind of dangerous information getting put out into the world. But seeing that basically almost $10 million got hacked, allegedly from stolen credit cards, that was made into bit purchases and donations on Twitch. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of people's information. It's a lot of stuff that got pulled into it. So after an investigation into last month's data leak, it was alleged that a group of hackers laundered about $10 million in legally obtained funds from making a ton of tiny donations to Twitch streamers. So they're kind of doing that drip donation hack that I've heard about before. It's kind of weird because we've seen stuff like that talked about in movies about like how if you're going to steal a bunch of money, do it in small increments so that people don't really see something happening. As MEE and GameGar report, data related to the Turkish market revealed some funny stuff going on, with large donations being made in tiny amounts through the platform's cheering currency bits to a relatively small time streamers. It says Twitch transfers 1% of income obtained through the bit to the individual streamer. Some were found to be earning up to $1,800 a day, despite only having 40 to 50 viewers. Under the scam, hackers firstly allegedly stole or obtained the credit card information of random individuals. Then they negotiated deals with Twitch streamers to send them large payments of money through bits. The streamers then would refund 80% of the money they received to different bank accounts belonging to the hackers, effectively laundering the money. $9.8 million was laundered through 2,400 Turkish streamers over the past 2 months. That's scary, not great, and also like super wild that is a thing that happened. I don't know how you kind of work in that space, and how do you kind of figure out how to balance that out? That is wild. It's also like kind of brilliant that's a thing, that they were able to kind of figure that out. But it is wild to see that this was a new way to kind of circumvent the ways we think about all the work that has happened in the kind of, spaces where you're trying to figure out good ways to keep everyone safe, right? Keep your data safe, to find ways that you can do, less nefarious things with, all of the money that winds up happening. That's also like pretty wild, right? Because then you get to think about all the ways that this kind of went down. It was like in tandem, not only with the hackers, but with the streamers themselves saying like, hey, we'll refund the money back and get a cut, while also doing this work behind the scenes, especially with the opening that was there with the big breach. Kind of scary to know that, again, like the stuff that should be the safest parts of Twitch are having these issues where these breaches and these openings and these holes are there, on a platform that again is pushing millions and millions of dollars a day, through its currencies and through its activations and through its ways that it's all kind of touching. It is super wild that that's a thing, and I don't know what to do about that. It says in the last part of the article, it says high profile Turkish streamer Jahrein has 1.7 million Twitch subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And there's another person trying to raise awareness. He has recently met with the politicians who are now calling in Turkey's parliament for the Financial Crimes Investigation Board and other relevant Turkish state institutions to scrutinize the scandal. Again, I think one of the things that we've seen in this space has been that cyber crimes are very, very different in the way that they get adjudicated, in the way that they wind up kind of working in the space, where I don't think a lot of agencies and folks in the law enforcement space really understand all the avenues in which cyber crimes can happen, and having this be a thing in this big way that now could potentially lend to another version of this somewhere down the line. That's scary. Like, I don't know how to do with that. That's going to be a thing where, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it is, one, I'm happy that they caught it. And two, I'm happy that they are learning from their mistakes, and they're now, hopefully Twitch is going to be, locking that down in a way that is going to be, more safe, hopefully, for all of you. Like, makes me worry about the way that bits are going to work in that way for people who are trying to scam the system in that big way. So I guess if more details come about from this, we'll try to report on whatever we find and hear. But wild that was a thing, and kind of smart from the folks who found that loophole and are figuring out ways to make it happen. Last 411 story of this episode is all about Netflix. Netflix is now getting into games. There was a conversation a couple of months ago about Netflix acquiring Oxenfree's developer Night School. Folks who, I loved Oxenfree. Oxenfree was a fantastic game. And them kind of pulling them into the fold and saying, hey, here's we're trying to get into games, and now we're going to try to, maneuver that space in a different way than we did before. I think a lot of people got really excited about the potential of that because Netflix is a huge company and has been doing some pretty good work in terms of getting things done. But it is an interesting kind of space for them because a lot of these games are going to be on Android and iOS devices. So it's going to be on tablets, going to be on mobile devices, things like that. And currently, you'll be able to now, because the service is live, go on the Netflix mobile app, look for games and play them directly on your devices. So some of the games you'll be able to choose from: Stranger Things 1984, Stranger Things 3, the game, Shooting Hoops, Card Blast, and Teeter Up. Again, I'm not going to say that these are like the most exciting games for a launch to go out. It is a interesting maneuver. I think this is a toe in the water kind of thing, which I think is pretty smart. But I do wonder again, like, it's hard to say, because I know some people who are working on some of this stuff, and I know that there is a actual full on, like, we are really looking at this space in a real way. But it is also weird to see that it kind of roll out in this very kind of, I don't want to say small way, but it doesn't feel like the way that Netflix does stuff. It feels like Netflix will have a thing that's fully baked and ready to go, and then they go hard in terms of reach and in terms of marketing, in terms of all this stuff. This feels like this was very much a thing that kind of went out, was done, and then put out into the world, and it was like, all right, here we go. You got a thing now. Go check it out and see if you want to do it. It will be really cool to see what happens when Oxenfree gets their toes in the water. I do want to see what they do there. I think that's going to be where more of the conversation grows in a way that's more interesting. That will be really, really wild to see what happens when that full-fledged game winds up becoming a thing. Does it become a thing that's only on, certain devices because that's where they want those to live? Is that a thing where they do something in the way they did Bandersnatch, where you'll be able to, play some form of a game or some form of entertainment that is interactive on your television set and on your other devices? Is a lot of stuff in the mix to kind of figure out in terms of what they're going to maneuver and do. But this is a new day for them. I think this is going to be really cool to see. And we're seeing the foundations of what this could potentially be for all the things that are coming into this space, which I think is going to be, pretty interesting moving forward. So shout out to folks over Netflix. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this. I want to see all the goodness that's going to potentially come from this. I think there's some great spaces to be able to figure out, what new games are going to kind of be on the platform, how folks are going to really dig into it. Please, if you're a fan of ours and you follow us on social, let me know if you're going to like dig into this. I'd love to hear, why you would play games like this from Netflix in this space, and share that information with us, because I think that would be really cool to see how all of that works. So I'm infinitely excited for what that could potentially be. But it is a very weird launch for a company like Netflix to be able to do something like this. So yeah, I think, the other big story of the week was around Facebook and Meta, them changing their name to Meta. Zuckerberg having lots of conversations around what he wants the metaverse to be and what the expectations are going to be from a technology standpoint. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. I'll just say it out loud. I don't think it's going to work. I just don't think that the versions of what they want interactivity to be are going to be exactly what they are hoping for. I think that there is a layer there that is really interesting and compelling, but I think everything feels like a step backwards in terms of the way that they are looking at the space in that way. I think everything that they're trying to do from a visual standpoint, from a medium standpoint, from a, are we all going to be having, VR headsets on our heads? Probably not. I doubt that that's going to be a thing. Again, VR is going to get better once it gets smaller and less obtrusive, and you don't look weird wearing a VR headset. But I don't think that those are things that are going to happen anytime soon in a way that we're going to all want to jump on it. And especially with Facebook, aka Meta, having its name sullied for all the things that we've talked about from a privacy issue standpoint, and from all the other layers that wind up going along with this particular outfit in this particular company. It's going to take a lot for everyone to kind of get out of that space and rethink what that's going to wind up being. I just don't think that that's going to be something that's going to work in the ways that we think. I just don't believe that you could, pay people. I remember very specifically asking the question a couple months ago about like, hey, if we decide to leave Twitch, especially because this is the time during the massive hate raids, if we were to leave Twitch and we were to choose between Facebook gaming and YouTube to stream our content, everybody said, if you go to YouTube, if you go to Facebook, we are not following. Like, that was a full-throated distancing of that platform from everybody in Chicago. So if everybody in Chicago is like, I'm not going to Facebook, which means I'm not going to Meta, what does that mean for other companies who are thinking about attaching themselves to that stuff, right? Like, I just don't think that is going to be a palatable space for a lot of people who are thinking about, what content is going to look like in the future. And do you want to have this weird looking avatar be the thing that connects you to other people, when we've seen over the past 2 years how much connection means to folks, right? So I just don't know if the Zuckerberg idea has any legs to it. And if it does, I think it'll be in ways that are very AR focused. If we're even going to talk about anything that has to do with with any kinds of metaverses, it just doesn't feel like those layers are going to be smartly done, or if they're going to be done, they're going to look cool, or they're going to be fun. It all looks really cheap for a company that makes so much money. It just looks bad. It doesn't even look cool. Like, that's the weird part about all of those things together. So again, I don't know what they're trying to do. It feels weird. I don't know how they're trying to figure that stuff out. It just doesn't make sense. We're about to get up out of here for this half of the show. We have another half of the show after our break. But before we do that, we definitely have to give love again to our friends over at Manscaped. Our friends over there are doing it up for the holidays. Again, if you're trying to, make sure that your tree is trimmed properly and that your snow globes are looking fine, you got to make sure you're rocking with manscaped.com. Manscaped is rocking with us here at Spawn on Me. They have their lawnmower 4.0. It's super exciting. I like it. I have been using it for the past, I used it the other day to make sure that my tree was trimmed properly. and make sure that all my chestnuts was not roasted by a razor burn. So it was great to be able to have the new product come in, rock with it, use it, and feel like it was in a good space. Again, like, I have it right here. It's awesome. What I really do like about this is, besides the fact that it has a different feel than the previous versions, the Lawnmower 4.0 has like a really awesome guide here, so that if you've ever used clippers before on your boys, it's kind of dangerous. It's kind of dangerous. You don't want to do that. Sometimes you might cut yourself. You might nick yourself. You might go nicks, go nicks, go nicks, go. That's not a nicks that you want. That's not the bing bong that you want. You don't want to bong your bings. You don't want that. That's not what you want. So I'm saying, if you rock with this, you get the Lawnmower 4.0, beautifully designed. I love the design on it. It's pretty fantastic. Has this really awesome charger, so you can just place it on the charger, put it on your desk, USB-C powered. Again, you can cop one of these, rocking with our friends over at Manscaped at manscaped.com. You can use the code SpawnOnMe for 20% off and free shipping. I am excited about our partnership that we're rocking with them. And again, we'll be talking about more of this in some more upcoming shows as well. So massive love to our friends over at Manscaped for supporting the show and getting it in with us. Again, if you want to make sure that your ho-ho-hos are working, and you don't want to get any bumps on your sleigh ride, then you want to make sure that you're rocking with manscaped.com. We'll be right back after this. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Spawn on Me right after this.
Hey, Chicago. Merritt K here from Fanbyte. Did you know that Spawn on Me is a part of the Fanbyte podcast network? We produce a ton of other great shows like Channel F, a podcast where we talk about the games we're playing.
Can I just say how much I would love for there to be a Hitman game that's just about making people experience embarrassing social faux pas, trying to like prank people and make it seem like they had farted or like tripped on something? That would be like very good.
Dig up weird finds at thrift stores.
So the listing says Bung Doctor V64.
And take your questions about the best jokers.
Labars Martin asks, what's the best or coolest weapon ever given to a mech?
Gundam Fusion Rebake has a really good...
wait, give me that one more time.
Gundam Fusion Rebake.
Yo, I heard you. Gundam Fusion.
I personally guarantee that listening to Channel F will make you a better, smarter, more powerful version of yourself. So go to fanbyte.com/podcasts or search for Channel F on your podcast app of choice today. Improvement not guaranteed. Listening to Channel F may cause jokeification.
Welcome back to the Spawn on Me podcast. I'm your host, Kahlief Adams. This is the second half of our show. If you missed the first half of our show, you missed me talking about a whole bunch of awesome conversations around video games and the video game industry. And again, thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Manscaped, for rocking with us this week and sponsoring the show. Yo, I've been playing a bunch of stuff of late. There's a bunch of games that I've been digging into. I've been hearing a lot of the scuttlebutt around certain games and wanting to figure out like what's the stuff to kind of dig into. I had like basically 2 weeks where I didn't get a chance to play games. So I'm like infinitely excited to kind of like sit down and play some stuff. And one of the games I keep hearing so much about has been Inscription. Inscription, which is this kind of roguelike, almost horror game, almost escape room, CCG card collecting game. It is just a wild experiment in video games. And I think we're hearing so many folks who I really do like appreciate their opinions and about the way they think about games, talk about just how good this game is. I bought it the other night, played a couple rounds of it. I'm still trying to understand how the minutia of the actual game works, but from what I've been playing, and shout out to TDH in the chat saying that there's a demo available. There is a demo available for you to go check this out. It is just so interesting. So like, you're kind of using these cards to, battle this other person, this other being that's across from the table. It's kind of shrouded in darkness. And you're getting these cards that are based on kind of different animals and insects and all these other things. And when you're playing, you're basically trying to figure out good ways to, in the ways that you would play a game like Hearthstone, where you kind of like, take that person's health down to a certain amount before they actually like expire. You're doing that with these cards, but there are all these like small intricacies of, which characters do you use to sacrifice a card to use another card? Which animals are or have multiple versions of themselves that they can build upon to kind of make them stronger, or have, cards that you can morph into other cards or add elemental abilities to them, or it's very strategic in the way that you build your decks, but the decks are always different because it is a kind of a roguelite. So I'm playing it. I don't have a lot yet to say about it because I only really got a chance to play like 1 or 2 games, but I did want to put it on all of your radars because it is a thing that, in terms of folks in the gaming space have been talking about it. It is rare that I see a game where people are like, yo, you need to play this. Like, there are very few games in that space where people are doing that work. And I'm figuring out like what's the good way to kind of, explain it. TDA says in the chat, it's like, looks like a card game crossed with an escape room. It is. So like, there's another part of the game where you're like looking, like you're like, you get up from the table, and you're like, are looking around the space for clues for other things that will either give you new cards or give you new access to new abilities or do any of that stuff. And it's wild because it's kind of scary in a way that you don't expect, because you're just shrouded in darkness. And all you see are these kind of 2 eyes in the darkness kind of staring at you and telling you things, but there's not a lot of sound. It's not a lot of movement. There's not a lot of stuff happening, but it's very subtle. And that subtle like movement and audio just makes it feel really ominous all the time. But it also feels like you should be kind of like looking around the space to find out like, oh, what's in that corner? Oh, what's in that space? Like, is there a thing over there? And sometimes you'll get like information to be able to like tell you like, okay, you need to go into that part of the corner and go get something for me. Or you need to go and grab something off that table because that's a thing that you're going to need for the next round of cards. It's just really well done from an art direction perspective. It's really gorgeous. From a atmospherics perspective, it feels really interesting and cool. It being a Devolver game automatically puts it at a certain level for me, because I just think Devolver makes and publishes really smart games out in the world. But I'm right after this stream and after I edit the show, I'm going to dive back in and go play more of it, because I feel like it is a thing that I am I was thinking about it a lot over the past couple of days. Having gotten a chance to like mess around with it a little bit. And it's been something that's just like on my mind of like, I need to figure this out, because I'm having fun with it. And I'm like, want to find out all the weird stuff that's in there. Cause I'm like seeing conversations about, hidden stuff here, or, surprises here, or any of that stuff where it feels like, your mileage will vary, but if you dig into all the stuff and then you find out like you're really vibing with it, like it feels like it's going to be one of those surprise games of the year for sure, which I'm very, very excited about. I love stuff like that. The other game that I got a chance to play for a little bit, which wasn't super, super long, but I did get a chance to mess around with Darkest Dungeon 2. I am a big fan of Darkest Dungeon. I think Darkest Dungeon is brilliant. I think that, the folks over at Red Hook continue to make great games with like redonkulous art style. They have nailed this again. They've added some extra layers to it, where now you have an overworld where you kind of travel through it. And I played like half of a couple of turns. Haven't had a full chance to like really dig into it. Again, I'm going to dig into some of that stuff this evening. But knowing just the pedigree of Red Hook and knowing just how well and how much I've played of the previous game, I am infinitely excited for that. This game is out on, what do you call it? Early access. And they've already sold 100,000 copies on early access from what I've heard from the folks over at Epic Game Store. That in and of itself is just a huge accomplishment. It is something that you don't see happen a lot in terms of early access games. But again, them being able to figure out how you can do that work is also fantastic. If you're going to cop the game on Epic, on the Epic Game Store, use the Epic Game code Spawn on Me. You can help support Bricago as well if you cop the game on the Epic Game Store. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this. I feel like they have figured out ways to get people involved. One of the things I loved to hear them talk about before or previously was about how the modding community came to Darkest Dungeon 1 and how they really helped to, give that game some longevity in the space in a way that they didn't even expect. So I love to hear that's a part of the equation. I love to hear that that's a thing that is going to be consistent across the way that they're doing this work. And I'm just really excited to jump back into that game and see where it's landed in a lot of different ways. We're going to have some more conversations about some upcoming games very, very shortly. I can't say what, but you may want to check out some information probably this week from us about some games that are going to be coming out that are embargoed. A lot of good information coming out in the world about various types of games, various stuff, where we're hitting that interesting part of the year where, games like Halo and Forza and all those other kind of things are going to start to kind of dribble out. And we'll have coverage of all of that stuff for you here on Spawn on Me. So I'm extremely excited about that. One other thing before we get up out of here for this episode that I do want to talk about is I bought a Microsoft Microsoft Surface Duo. Sorry. Because I was looking to see if, I'm looking for another device that I'd be able to use for gaming on the go. I really don't use my Switch. I really haven't played with it much. I really don't want to use my iPad for some of that stuff. I'm not really going to use my phone, even though the Backbone, if you haven't copped a Backbone, which is the handheld controller for multiple mobile devices, you should. It's a fantastic product. I think I totally recommend that as a product that you should cop. But the dual screen thing made me really excited for it, and I'll have a longer review or a review of how that device feels as a gaming device very, very soon. I copped it. I'm thinking about using it mostly for cloud gaming and seeing how all those things are connected, and I'm just excited to see where that is going to wind up landing in terms of usability and form factor and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be a thing that you'll hear some more information about from me in an upcoming show, an upcoming episode for sure. Thank you everybody for coming through tonight. Again, I'm going to make sure that we have more consistent streams. I've been working down in LA for the past couple of weeks, so streams have been a little bit on and off. If you're watching the live version of the show here on Wednesday night, we are going to be doing our NFL streams tomorrow. I'll be back doing an NFL stream. We had some issues with the internet stuff wherever I was at. So I wasn't able to do the internet streams that week. We'll be doing them tomorrow at 5 p.m. PST. If you're listening to this on the podcast version of it across all the podcast catchers that you can, please remember that we're doing those shows on Thursday nights. So you'll be able to see it next Thursday when I do another NFL stream with the folks over at and the NFL and Twitch, where we are partnering with them this year again. So we're hopefully going to be able to get, make up some ground because we lost 2 weeks. But it'll be so much fun to be rocking with y'all. I love those NFL streams, to doing that with all of y'all because it's super fun. The chat and the energy is super great. I love it. Girls Can't Geek with the love in the chat as well. So again, Jets and Colts tomorrow is going to be the game that's going to be playing on that side of the fence. It's going to be real wild to see my Jets lose because they're going to lose again. They won last week. I'm happy for them. They won. They won a game. Good job, Jets. 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 Anyway, we're going to get up out of here for this episode. Again, thank you to our sponsors over at Manscaped. Massive love to you all for supporting us. Again, 20% off, free shipping. Use the code Spawn on Me at manscaped.com to rock and get your trees trimmed and your ho-ho-hos right. All that good stuff in that space. So until then, we'll see you all next week here on the Spawn on Me podcast. Much love to you. Tomorrow, NFL. Next week, more Spawn on Me. And make sure you're checking out the feeds in the next couple of days. We got some stuff coming as well. So we'll see you soon. Much love to you all, and peace.